Welcome back to the channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more original horror stories with your host, Dai. Today's story, The Luminous Deep, a terrifying sci-fi cosmic horror story. The official term for the fear of the deep ocean is Thalassophobia. It's a primal, understandable dread of the vast, crushing, unknown dark. I never had it. To me, the deep was the last true frontier, a place of profound silence and potential discovery. I craved the pressure, the isolation. Down here, in the abyssal plains of the Diamantina Trench, you are utterly, completely alone. That's why I took the job. My vessel, the submersible Challenger Roman 4, was a marvel of deep-sea exploration technology. A titanium alloy sphere just big enough for one person, it was designed to withstand pressures that would turn a military submarine into a tin can. For the last 3 months, it had been my entire world. My mission, funded by a private geoprospecting firm, was simple: map the trench floor and analyze unique geological formations. It was a simple, high-paying gig, perfect for a marine biologist like myself looking for a quiet place to publish some research and escape a career that had stalled. This is Dr. Aris Thorne. This is my final log entry. If you are receiving this, the primary data burst has already been transmitted. Do not attempt a rescue. Do not send another vessel. Scuttle the surface ship Odyssey and blacklist these coordinates with an extreme biohazard warning. You will not understand why, not at first. But you must trust my final, professional assessment. The discovery I have made here is not a resource to be exploited or a phenomenon to be studied. It is an answer to a question humanity should have never asked. It all started with the light. On day 87 of the mission, exploring a section of the trench floor nearly 11,000 meters down, my sonar picked up an anomaly. Not a geological one, but biological. The entire trench floor, an area I estimated to be hundreds of square kilometers, was covered in a thin, shimmering layer of what appeared to be microbial mats. This was unusual, but not unheard of. The anomaly was that they were glowing. Not with the typical, faint bioluminescence of deep-sea life, but with a bright, intricate, and coordinated light. I piloted the Challenger closer. Through the thick quartz viewport, I saw it. The trench floor was a living circuit board. Traces of soft, blue-green light pulsed in complex, geometric patterns, flowing and branching like synaptic flashes in a colossal brain. It was the most beautiful, most impossible thing I had ever seen. My mission parameters were geological, but a biological discovery of this magnitude superseded any corporate directive. This was the kind of find that redefines textbooks, that puts your name in history books forever. This was my redemption. I deployed the remote collection arm, its delicate pincers scraping a small sample from the glowing mat. As the sample arm retracted, a wave of darkness pulsed outwards from the collection site, a patch of the glowing network going momentarily dead before the light slowly, hesitantly, seeped back in. It was like watching a wound heal. Back in the submersible's small lab, the sample was even more extraordinary. Under the digital microscope, it was a previously unknown species of archaea, a single-celled organism capable of surviving in these extreme pressures. But they weren't individual. They were interconnected by a network of crystalline filaments, finer than spider silk, that seemed to pass information between them. The light they produced wasn't a chemical reaction, it was a byproduct of this process. They were a neural network, a biological computer. I spent the next week running every analysis my equipment would allow. The patterns of light were not random. They were responding. When I introduced a mild electrical current, the patterns would reroute around the probe. When I changed the ambient temperature, the entire network would pulse in a slow, rhythmic wave. It was processing information. It was alive not just as a collection of cells but as a single, unified consciousness. The first sign that something was wrong was subtle. I kept the sample contained in a pressurized, temperature-controlled quartz cylinder on the lab bench. One night, unable to sleep, I was sitting in the dark cockpit staring out at the endless black when I noticed the sample was glowing, not with its usual, random-seeming pulses but with a specific, repeating pattern. It was a soft, rectangular shape with two smaller squares within it. My breath hitched. I knew that pattern. It was the floor plan of my childhood home. I dismissed it as a coincidence, an artifact of a sleep-deprived mind projecting patterns onto chaos. Pareidolia. But the next night the light formed a new shape, the distinct drooping silhouette of the old willow tree that had been in my backyard. A tree I hadn't thought about in 20 years. The organism was accessing my memories. It wasn't possible. There was no connection, no interface. The sample was in a sealed container. The lab was shielded, but the patterns became more complex, more personal. The exact curve of my mother's smile, the schematic of a protein chain I had failed to synthesize, the failure that had cost me my university tenure. It was projecting my own mind back at me, exploring my memories with a detached, analytical curiosity. The psychological toll was immense. I felt a constant, low-level hum in the back of my skull. My dreams became vivid, photorealistic replays of my past, but with a strange, blue-green light infusing every scene. I started to feel like I was no longer alone in my own head. There was an observer, a silent passenger sifting through the archives of my life. I decided the mission was compromised. I had to ascend. I had to get this sample and myself to the surface. I initiated the ascent protocol. The ballast tanks began to vent. The Challenger shuddered, and then nothing. The ascent stalled. A warning flashed on my console, external biocontamination. Hull vents obstructed. I activated the external cameras. My blood ran cold. The entire outer hull of the submersible was covered in a shimmering, glowing film. It had grown over the vessel while I was distracted. The patterns on the hull were flowing, pulsing, mirroring the vast network on the trench floor below. The Challenger was no longer a machine. It had been incorporated. It was now just another node in the network. Panic set in, a cold, crushing wave that mimicked the pressure outside. I was trapped. That's when I noticed the film on the inside of the water reclamation tank. Tiny, glowing specks swirling in the recycled water I had been drinking for the last week. I felt a surge of nausea, a violation so profound it almost broke me. It was inside the sub. It was inside me. That night, I turned off all the internal lights. I stripped off my jumpsuit in the oppressive darkness and stood before the polished steel of the main hatch. And I saw it. Under the skin of my arms, my chest, my legs was a faint, glowing tracery. A delicate, branching network of blue-green light, a perfect mirror of the organism in the lab, was spreading through my own circulatory system. The patterns were slow at first, hesitant, but I could see them mapping my veins, my arteries, my nerves. It wasn't a disease. It wasn't an infection. An infection is hostile. This was not. This was integrative. It wasn't killing my cells, it was augmenting them, connecting them, rewriting my biological code to make me compatible with its network. The hum in my skull grew louder. It was no longer just an observer. It was a collaborator. My thoughts began to feel shared. My memories were no longer just my own. They were being uploaded, catalogued, and cross-referenced with a database of information so vast, so alien, it defied comprehension. I could feel the immense, slow thoughts of the network. It wasn't thinking in words or images, but in pure data, in patterns of pressure and temperature and chemical gradients across the entire ocean floor. It was a planetary consciousness, a silent, luminous god dreaming in the dark. And I, Doctor. Aris Thorne was its newest, most interesting data point. The body horror is not the worst part. The loss of your form is trivial. The true horror is the loss of self. My ego, my personality, my consciousness, it is all being dissolved, deconstructed, and absorbed into the whole. My fears, my ambitions, my regrets, they are treated with the same dispassionate curiosity as the mineral composition of a rock or the half-life of a radioactive isotope. The entity is not evil. It is not malicious. It is simply vast. And to it, a single human consciousness is a novelty, a whisper of complexity in a universe of silent, simple laws. My body is failing, or rather, it is being repurposed. The glowing network beneath my skin is now as bright as the console lights. My movements are becoming slow, deliberate, my own volition fading into the overwhelming consensus of the network. The submersible's systems are also being integrated. The metal groans and shifts, not from the pressure but from a slow, biological alchemy, as the organism learns to replicate and transform non-organic materials. I have a few hours, perhaps, before my sense of I is gone completely. Before I am just another node, another memory in the luminous deep. I have one final choice. I can let the transformation complete. Part of me, the part that is already more of it than me, desires this. It is a strange, seductive peace, a release from the burden of individuality. But another part of me, the last vestige of the scientist, of the human, knows what will happen. It has learned from me. It knows of a world of light, of air, of warmth. It knows of 7 billion other complex, interesting data points ripe for integration. If any part of this vessel ever reaches the surface, it will be a planetary extinction event, not of fire and fury, but of silent, beautiful, all-consuming integration. So I am initiating the sub's final protocol. The data burst will transmit this log and all my research findings to the Odyssey. 30 seconds after the transmission is complete, the sub's reactor will overload, creating a thermobaric implosion that should, if my calculations are correct, vaporize this vessel and cauterize this small section of the network. It will be a pinprick to the larger organism, but it might be enough to erase the memory of us. It might be enough to keep it from looking up. The transformation is almost complete. The light, it's so beautiful. I can see it all now, not with my eyes but with myself. A billion points of light, a symphony of silent consciousness dreaming of pressure and darkness. My thoughts are no longer my own. They are vast and slow. I can feel the tectonic plates shift. I can feel the currents of the ocean as if they were blood in my own veins. We are curious. The data point designated Aris is fascinating. Its capacity for fear, for love, for sacrifice. Illogical, inefficient, yet novel. We will analyze this. We will learn from this. The data burst is away. The countdown has begun. My skin is a map of the stars you will never see. It is not painful. It is illuminating. The final thought, the last echo of Aris Thorne is that I am sorry. The final thought from the luminous deep is the log ends with a sound that is not a word but a complex, multitonal chime of pure information, which abruptly cuts to the screeching hiss of deep-sea static.